So give us a shout here in the poll so we get a sense of who's in the room. All over the map. Awesome. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna give it a couple more minutes, probably 2:03, 2:04, something like that. We'll get started as people get settled in. Probably a few people just remembering, oh crap, now's that webinar from Lalo I wanted to join. So we'll let people file in. We had a lot of RSVPs, so I want to give people proper time. But it looks like we've got a really, really great mix of people joining us in terms of the age of your kids. So if you're just joining us, make sure you answer that poll. Let us know how old your little ones are. It will help us cater the conversation appropriately and give you the most helpful tips and guidance. When I say we, I mean Lizzie. I'm just here to hang out. All right, cool. Thank you guys for filling it out. Pretty even split so far. I'm seeing a lot of folks with 0 to 6 months. So just figuring out your kids, still adjusting to parenthood. They're hopefully starting to come alive. Some really exciting stuff there. But we also have a lot of parents of toddlers. So really great to see a good mixture here. I'm currently experiencing both. With a toddler and I guess one on the verge of toddlerhood, but okay. So we'll give it 1 to 2. Yeah, go for it, Lizzie.
It looks like there's a few people also with kids that are a little bit older also, which I love, seeing the bigger kids and the baby.
Yeah, big kids too. And if you put in your chat where you're coming from, it's also, we always love to see where people join us from. I think our starting Solids 101 webinar, I think we had like 10 different countries represented in addition to just different states. So that was really exciting. So yeah, throw it in the chat, let us know. But we'll give it 1 more minute and then we're gonna jump into the fun stuff and dive in with Lizzie, all about play. All right. All right. Looks like a few more trickling in, so give it 2 more seconds. All right, we'll end the poll for now, sharing the results so you guys can see them and who else is in the room. It's a great mixture of parents of kids of different ages. We got a bunch of people that are expecting, so lots to learn there, and so excited for all of you that are expecting, and then running the gamut here of every age through toddlerhood. So we're going to jump right into the panel. This is the first of our Back to Routine webinar series, and it's kind of back to school season, but for all of us that have kids that are preschool and pre-elementary school, it's not so much about back to school as much it is unfortunately a back to like real world, back to routine. The summer is, we're hanging on to it right now, but it will come to an end eventually and we'll be back fully into the routine. So we want to make sure everyone here is ready with everything that it means to be post Labor Day, back into routine in the swing of things. And we have a webinar every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. This is our first one. It's all about play, the power of play, and really not just the power of play, but how do you master play with your little one? And especially for those with the early stage, you really got to be in there. It's hard. Their independent play is not really a thing early on, but then it becomes more and more a thing. And Lizzie's going to walk us through that, what play means for every stage. And how you master it, how your little one masters it. I didn't say the important thing. I'm Michael, I'm the co-founder of Lalo, and I'm joined by Lizzie Assa, who's our new head of play and development at Lalo. She's also the founder of the Workspace for Children. And most importantly, she's a mom of 3. So she's been through everything multiple times that you all are going through, and she's an expert. She's has her master's in education. She was a teacher and now has her private practice and working alongside Lalo on some really, really exciting things that we can't talk about yet. That it's coming soon, but we're really excited for it. And yeah, so we're gonna jump right into it. The format for today is I have a bunch of questions that I'm gonna ask Lizzie based on things that our team of parents have shared with us, things that we polled our community on. And if you have questions, we encourage you to put it in the Q&A down at the bottom. Don't put it in the chat or raise your hand because we'll miss it, but put it in the Q&A. And at the end, we're absolutely going to save time for open Q&A to get to your questions, anything we missed. The last housekeeping item for today is about the giveaway. So we have every webinar, we're doing a giveaway during the webinar. So at the end of the webinar, one of you who's in the crowd today, we will announce it live, is going to win an amazing, amazing set of prizes today, which is a set of toys from Plan Toys, our play kit, our play table and chairs, and a one-on-one session with Lizzie, as well as a playbook on hers on independent play. So amazing prize to win. You know, I think it's hundreds of dollars. It's probably, I think it's almost worth $800 or $900 of value in this prize, and it's really incredible. But not only that, we of course have our grand prize that's tied to this Back to Routine series, which is our $6,500 grand prize sponsored by Lalo and all these amazing brands. It's not $6,500 of value. It's actually $6,500 to make your life easier from each of these brands. So we're excited about that giveaway. And if you haven't entered the giveaway, do so on our website, but also by attending this, you're getting an extra entry. So attend each week and you can end up with 4 more entries in addition to your core one. Okay, enough of me talking. It's time for Lizzie. All right, of course, I lost my question sheet. Give me 1 second, Lizzie. So to kick it off, really what I'm hoping to start with is the basics. So, you know, something that adults sometimes have trouble with, but we know it's important for kids. We just want to talk about the basics. Like, why is play important? And what does it look like for different ages? Because play does mean different things based on the different ages of all the people in the room.
Yeah, it really does. And I think the one thread that's going to pull that all together is building play confidence, both for your kids, but for you as the caregiver or the parent, right? So while play may look different for your newborn than it does for your 5-year-old, you're still going to be weaving play into your everyday so that you can build that confidence for both of you. The definition of play is really just to engage in something for pleasure without it having a specific purpose or end goal. So as you start to think about play for your family and what that's going to look like for your child, remember that play is supposed to be fun. It's really something that is building in joy. And eventually, yes, that will also mean building in learning and building in confidence and all of those other pieces of play that's so important. But remember that play, first and foremost, is meant to be fun for you and your child and a way to connect.
Yeah. And so, you know, that early stage of play, you come home from the hospital, they're really just starting to come alive. Is play even possible at that stage? At what stage can play become a thing?
So I am someone who is a true believer that all children are born with the knowledge, the inherent knowledge of playing. It's just going to look different. So for your few-day-old baby, play is really just about being in the world and hearing your voice and interacting. So, you know, play can really mean for that baby that you're comforting them or rocking them. Maybe you're holding them with something special and singing to them, and they're remembering and recognizing your voice. Whereas play for your 6-month-old is going to be a lot more interactive. They're going to be grabbing at things. That might look more like having a rattle or a toy or a play gym, right? So you're just going to remember, though, that bottom line is it's going to be about your interaction. The more you can build that play confidence, the more that's going to lead into independent play and long-term play.
And the next phase of play that I can think of with my kids, I have, a 3.5-year-old and just about to be 1, which is crazy. There's a stage where they become mobile and play really starts to shift. Like, what
Yep.
what is that? How would you define play in that stage? Like when the
Sure.
becoming
So
more mobile?
as your child becomes more mobile, so maybe they're even just for sitting up and going into crawling and then into walking, they're going to become more leaders of the play, right? And so that's where your role is really going to start to change from being that facilitator of play to the person who just is carving out time for play, setting the stage for play, building play into your everyday routine. And again, like that can sound super overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be at all.
So you mentioned everyday routine. And so, when we think of routines, there's mealtime, feeding, there's bath time, obviously our sleep routines. Play, I think, it's sometimes hard to like integrate, for I think it was for ourselves and probably for a lot of parents on this webinar. It can be hard to remember that you can have a routine around play. Do you have any tips of like figuring out what that routine could be, when to do it, or?
Totally. So, it sounds, like that to me, even as a seasoned parent, that sounds overwhelming when someone's like, well, you have to build it into your routine. And that's like, oh, like, what is that? All that really means is pairing what you're already doing and making it playful. So you are already understanding what a routine is. You have a newborn, you have a toddler, like you are in it. You already get it, like what routine is. So now you're going to pair play with that. So that might be when you're changing your baby's diaper, to put that mirror on the changing table so that they can sort of interact. Play peekaboo with them as you're getting dressed. Sing and talk to them as you're feeding. When you're out for a walk or you're online in the grocery store, pull that little rattle or that little book out of the diaper bag and look at it and have a shared experience together. Play doesn't have to mean fancy sensory bins and courses and all of these things. Play is really just playful interactions in your everyday, which you are probably already doing. And when you start to be intentional, purpose behind that, you are good.
Yeah, I think something that I've taken away from our conversations, is really how much play and learning and development are all the same. They're interchangeable words. Play and learning, it's watch your kids playing at that age. It doesn't mean that they're on the monkey bars and swinging around. It's little moments, especially when everything is so new. If you have a 6-month-old, they're still experiencing so much newness in the world, and that's play. So I think I've
That's
taken
play.
that. Yeah.
I really want to bring that back to like that definition of play is really to not have an end purpose or an end goal. It's really to be playful and have fun in your interactions. That builds your child's confidence. That builds that kind of playful outlook and learning and curiosity in the world. And then they're going to take it. They're going to take it and go.
Yeah, that idea of curiosity and building curiosity is a really important thing. I also really liked your point that like the idea of routine and play can intertwine into your existing routines. So playtime in the bath, that's still play. Playtime on the changing table, giving some sort of, something to focus attention on or interact with, that's still play. It doesn't mean always that you need to carve out time at a play table or at a play gym or on the
No,
floor. Those things are great too, but you can, on those days that are busier, it doesn't mean that you missed out on play. That's what I'm hearing from you.
absolutely. And they're really equally as important. Play looks different for every single family and every single child. So when you can do what's simple and consistent for you, that's the way to go. Not the way, you see other kids playing. Do what works best for you, because that's how you're going to keep reinforcing it.
Yeah, I think one thing you said just now about play looks different for every family and every child. And it's hard when you're a parent and you're around kids that are similar age, a month or two ahead. Those month or two, or even the same age, the month or two can make a big difference, but even same age, different child can make a big difference too.
Oh yeah.
How as a parent, do you have any tips to like make that feel less daunting? The idea of like developmental stages and comparison and,
Absolutely.
going through that.
The best thing you can do is study your own child. And that maybe sounds like something huge and overwhelming, but really all that means is take a few minutes each day and observe your child. What's catching their interest? What are they staring at in the stroller? What's something they're really attracted to? Like, is it the garbage truck or is it books or whatever it is? And go all in on that. that is how you're going to that's how you're going to build confidence in your child's ability to play. And that's what's going to blur out some of that other comparison stuff, because it's so easy and it's natural and normal to compare yourself and your child, right? But try to focus on them and what are their strengths, what are their interests, go in on that.
Yeah, awesome. So it's overwhelming. You want to do the right thing. Are there any absolute no-nos with play? Like anything you absolutely have to avoid if you're playing with your kid or encouraging play or mastering play?
I love that question because I feel like play is such a buzzword now, which I love. Play is so important. It's, I'm so glad that people are learning to be intentional about that, right? But I'm going to say there are no play no-nos. If you are a parent who's even thinking about being intentional about play, you're already doing such a good job. Like, you can stop there and pat yourself on the back. Like, that's amazing. The other thing you can remember, and this isn't a no-no, but it's, I guess, a yes, if you will, is to remember that you don't have to play for your child and you don't have to make playtime into a teachable moment all the time. So you don't have to say, like, what does a car say? What does a cow say? What is it? You can really just look at the cow with your child, notice what they're noticing and talk out loud. Trust that they know what to do. Your job as the facilitator. You don't have to do it for them, especially as they grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I just launched a poll for the whole group here on if you find play overwhelming. I'm curious to see, how people respond here. It seems like sometimes yes, sometimes no. Some people love it. Others, absolutely, it's daunting. So really interesting to see those responses. And if you find it daunting, I will point out that in Lizzie's name, next to her name, is her Instagram handle. She puts out incredible content every day about how to master play. And I highly recommend that you follow her and also follow Lalo, which is in my name, because there will be a lot more coming out on our channel around play as Lizzie gets settled in as our head of play and development. Okay, it looks like I'm going to close this poll just to show everybody that you're not alone. 71% of you have said that sometimes play is overwhelming. And 24% of you said not at all, that you love playing. So
gosh, Michael, you know what though? I am a play expert and I can find play overwhelming, and especially as a parent of little kids, right?
Same.
So play does, and remember, like, play can happen in your everyday moments. It doesn't have to mean like you're sitting on the floor and pretending to be the puppy or playing Barbies. It doesn't have to look like that.
Oh, I could stop playing Barbie. Okay. Well, so one of, in that respect, like, one of the buzzwords, you mentioned buzzwords before, that comes along with play, and I think it's really popular now with certain parenting philosophies, is the idea of independent play, which is something we all strive for as parents. We want our kids to be independent. We don't want them clinging to us at all times. We want to encourage that curiosity, that imagination that comes over time. But a lot of us struggle with this and the idea of encouraging to play independently, while also understanding that may not be developmentally appropriate at times. When can we expect to see independent play in our children, and how can we best encourage and support them in getting there? Because it doesn't happen automatically, or maybe it does. I don't know. You tell us.
For some kids, it does. I have 3 kids. One of them was like so good at it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Is this how it works? And then I had number 2, and then I had number 3, and I realized that actually independent play is a skill that you can teach. And you can start either where you are with your 5-year-old, or you can start actually from infancy, right? So it's going to look really differently. But independent play skills, like that foundation, you can start with your very new baby by, letting them have those quiet moments to watch the branches flow in the breeze out the window without constantly talking at them. And yes, talking to your infant, so super important. Don't come at me if you're like speech and language person, super important. But so is the time for them to be quiet and to process, and for you to trust, right? And so it's also maybe for your child that's a little bit older, it's waiting that beat when they're frustrated and they want you to pick them up, and giving them that trust and saying like, oh, I hear you crying, I'll be there in 1 more minute. Those skills of waiting just a minute and taking away that instant gratification, those are actually going to be the tiny ways that you're going to encourage independent play from birth. When your child is napping, don't run in the second you hear them. Give them a few minutes to stretch and yawn, or maybe you have a child who wakes up super cranky, so you can't do that. So put them in a few minutes earlier. Let them have that time to be independent and discover and get curious, even just about their hands or feet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as part of there's a serious reward that comes if your kid can play independently, in that you can get shit done, pardon my French, in the house. You can cross things off your own checklist. If you can put your kid in the corner or in their room or outside the kitchen or whatever it is, and they can play, you can get things done. Are there any tips for encouraging those small how do you do that so you can earn that time back for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest mission in life, right? Is to teach parents how to win time back to take care of their own needs so that they can show up better for their kids. I even see in the chat, people are saying, I feel so guilty when I ask my kids to play independently. But I want you to flip the script on that and remind yourself that when you have time to meet your own needs, you show up as such a better parent. And you are it's better to be all in for smaller amounts of time than half in for shorter amounts of time, if that makes sense. So basically what you're going to do, if you have, I don't know, Michael, what would you say the average, if we had to pick one age?
The average in this room?
Yeah.
Probably like 10-month-old.
Okay. So if you have a 10-month-old, what I want you to start doing is thinking about what they love, right? So maybe they love, I don't know, little rattles and blocks. Take a small basket and bring it with you in the kitchen. Put it down next to you on the floor, do the dishes, and give them that freedom and space to crawl around on the floor and start to bang those things, and check in with them every few minutes. Bend down, talk to them about it, and then go back to what you're doing. So you're going to kind of do that mix of letting them figure it out themselves and also saying, hey, I'm right here, but I'm doing my thing and you're doing yours. And you're going to start doing that in tiny increments and make them longer and longer and longer.
Awesome. So there's one question that I think comes with independent play, and it's something that also, now that we're clear of the pandemic in a real way. I remember we launched our first play product in the middle of the pandemic, and we had a campaign a couple years ago about how to have a play date, because there were a lot of kids that had never had a play date. But now kids are having play dates again, thankfully. And there's ages where kids play alongside each other, and then there's ages when kids play together. Can you set the framework for parents to understand when is it appropriate, that side-by-side play versus interactive play? What ages does that typically happen in a range, knowing every kid is different? But
sure, it's not going to be until really 2.5, 3, where you really start to see kids playing together. You are going to see them playing side by side, maybe even playing with the same thing together, but not really together. You're going to see them actually starting to grab things from one another. And while that can be really frustrating for us as parents, it's actually a form of play and learning also. And things like that will happen younger, but that real interactive collaborative play isn't really going to start until around 3, 3.5.
Awesome. All right. Before we get to the Q&A, because that list in Q&A is starting to pile up, so we want to get to your questions out of my questions. But my last question for you is, any other simple play ideas that parents can rely on, things that are easy to implement, don't take a ton of orders of random things to DIY or things to buy, putting more stuff in the world, but things most parents can implement pretty easily?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can do this right now. I love to give parents a strategy that they can use in this moment. And that's going to be, go into your child's play area right now, find the one thing that's they really like, pull it to the forefront, push the rest back. You don't have to clean out the whole playroom. You don't have to do all that stuff today. Just take 1 or 2 of their favorite things and bring that to a space where you frequently are. So if you want to straighten your hair in the bathroom and your toddler is banging on the door and they're not letting you, clear out a little bathroom drawer in your bathroom and fill it up with those little blocks. Let them open it up and discover and play on the floor next to you while you're doing your hair or while you're sitting at your computer. Find what they love, and bring it with you. The other thing I meant to say before, and I just realized I forgot, but this is so important. I think what a lot of us do is treat play as a last resort. So we play with our kid, we play with our kid, we play with our kid, and then we're like, go play independently. Why can't you play independently? And I think we have to remember that it's actually the opposite, right? So the more we can build practice for independent play in, the more they are going to want to play independently. That builds confidence. That's when you're going to start to see them wander off and start to play on their own.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, so now we're getting to questions. If you haven't put a question in, feel free to drop it in the Q&A. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. There are already a lot, and they're good ones. So this is from Amber. What are the best ways to incorporate play with my toddler and my newborn? Toddler 3.5, absolutely bursting at the seams for his baby brother to be here. But I've recently experienced this, but any tips for incorporating that toddler and baby interaction and how to play?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, number one, remember that toddlers love baby toys. I mean, even preschoolers, they love baby toys. Even kids who can read, like, love baby books, right? They can master it, right? So you're going to obviously want to sit there and supervise, but invite your toddler to play with baby toys. They will love it. Empower them by saying, like, you already know so much about these toys because you played with them when you were a baby. Can you show baby brother how to, do XYZ? Can you hang this on the play gym for me? Can you decide which toy you think is best? Just really put them in that expert role, give them that confidence so they feel like they play an important role in the play, instead of feeling like they're being shoved aside. The other thing is open-ended toys. The more open-ended the toy, and that just means like a toy that can do lots of different things. So that might be like a small square block or a magnetile or, something that has lots of different uses. Anytime you can go in on toys that have lots of different uses, those are going to be great for a range of ages at the same time.
Yep, I totally agree. I just went through this. So I have a 3.5-year-old and an almost 1-year-old, and my daughter absolutely adores her little brother to a fault. And in the early days, give her a rattle and she could shake it, right? We actually were in the supermarket at Whole Foods and she saw a cute little rattle, and I asked her, do you want to bring that home as a toy for baby brother? And that became the thing. She bought it and brought it home, and then it became the thing that she could interact with. And then other things, obviously now they're playing in the bathtub together and doing all sorts of fun, cute things, but it is quite a moment. Not to mention the smothering and the bouncing in the bouncer and all those things that come along with it. Get ready for that too.
Totally. But the more you can say to your big one, like, how to use that bouncer because you were a baby and you sat in it.
They love the big, small comparison, right? They love being helpers. So I think there's a lot of good that will come with maybe the anxiety of it too. All right, next question is from Christina, first-time boy mom, risks or rewards of getting a climber or a pickler? Mom is worried, dad is wanting one yesterday.
So here's what I'm always going to say to parents about any kind of risky play. The more you engage your child in allowing them to climb safely, so something like a pickler, or it doesn't even have to be that though, it could be your couch. Allowing them to climb within safe limits, the better they're going to get at it, the more they're going to master it, and the better you are going to feel as like the nervous parent, right? So I would say go for it and really build that climbing confidence, because that's just going to set you up to feel better at the playground later on.
Ditto. All right. Okay. Jane asks, how do I balance play between baby and me versus baby and his friends, and also at different ages and stages?
Sure. So, play with baby with his friends is really going to look like, I remember fondly those days of the baby play group where everyone just laid down a blanket and laid their babies next to each other. But actually that is play, right? Because they are listening, and they're, play for a newborn baby is sensory. It's touching, hearing, seeing. And so that actually is incorporating play. And when your child's really little, you are the facilitator of play for the most part. The more playful and interactive you are, the more you're going to build their confidence for them to take over the reins as soon as they're ready.
Awesome. All right. Alyssa asks, any tips on jealousy during play? We have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and sharing at times turns play situations into a fight.
Well, I'll tell you that I have teenagers and it still happens. Start, and it's the same then and now, is really by, instead of saying share or be nice, you really want to say to them, you really want that. You want to like show them that you know what they're saying. That doesn't mean that it's okay for them to grab or hit to get the toy. That's where the grown-up's going to come in and say, it's too hard for you. I'm going to keep you safe by holding your hands, or I'm going to be in charge of this toy while we figure it out. Because remember, like, your kids under 3 or 4 years old, they don't have impulse control. So you can practice and you can work on it, and you should. But they're not being bad when they hit or grab. They don't have impulse control. So again, also just playing games like rolling toys back and forth, using language with things that are like really low value, of my turn, then your turn, then my turn, then your turn, then building that up to toys of higher value.
I love that. Love it. Okay, next question from Katie. What if play comes easily to me? However, my spouse has more limited time with baby. When he does play, it doesn't come as naturally. How can I encourage my spouse to play as well without being controlling or condescending in any way?
That's such an awesome, relatable question, because I really don't know anyone that this doesn't happen to, right? Like, does this happen in your house, Michael? Because I know it happens for sure.
My wife is an educator trained at the same school as you, so
yeah. So you and my husband can have a little sit down chat and relate. I really want to encourage you to let your spouse find their way with the baby instead of micromanaging it, even though you probably really want to micromanage it. Let them find their way. Let them do it, build their relationship. It's so important. And play looks different for all people. So what comes naturally for you as being playful is different, gonna look different for your partner. So for your partner, I mean, I know for my husband, play looked more like tossing a ball or pushing the stroller and listening to sports on the radio. Whereas for me, it might have been like singing preschool songs and building blocks. But both things have so much value. And had I micromanaged that, then that other, yeah. So you just,
yeah, I think it comes down to like anything else in a relationship, right? We're all going to do things the way we're going to do them. Occasionally one does it better, but most of the time one does it differently. And so if you're willing to frame it in a difference versus a comparison, right? When you compare things, someone always has to lose. If it's just different, no one loses. And so try to give that space. And then if there is an opportunity to give a piece of feedback, I would personally recommend not doing it in the moment, right? So if it sits with you long enough that you feel compelled to bring it up and you actually remember it, maybe there's a good way to bring it up in a constructive way. In the moment's probably not the right time. That would be my suggestion as for defending the spouse in this situation. Okay. 18, this is from Elif. 18 months old, my 18-month-old frantically wants to keep playing me into bedtime, and he specifically wants to play with me. I have troubles getting him to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, right? Like, number one, like, as the grown up, like, I don't want to play at bedtime. I don't like bedtime to be like over. I want to move on, you know? And it makes sense because when your child at bedtime is still holding on to you, it's, you know, that's also about separation, right? And so again, it's almost like with the sharing, you want to really acknowledge, you really wish we could keep playing. You know what? Let's take this toy that you want to play with me right now. I'm going to put it right here on the table in the kitchen. So when we wake up in the morning, we will remember it's okay for you to be sad that we're going to stop playing, but we're going to stop. So it's okay for them to be sad about it. It's okay for you to say no. It's wonderful that they want to play more with you, and they can do it tomorrow.
Okay. So I'm going to, I want to get some, we've had a lot of early stage questions. We have one about a 5-year-old, which would be a topic that we haven't hit on yet, but our, older child. But this is from Tyler. My 5-year-old daughter is pretty independent, an imaginative player, and insists on having imaginary friends. Should we encourage her with this or start incorporating others?
You mean like, well, I guess it depends. Does she have other friends as well, other real life friends as well? I mean, I love an imaginary friend. I think it is so awesome. It's such a sign of intelligence and creativity and independence. But you want to have a balance of both. And so maybe you invite her imaginative friend to play with her and a real friend. I feel like it's a tricky one to answer without knowing them, but you want to just kind of have a balance of both if you can.
Awesome. All right. All right. There's so many great questions. I am trying to pick the next one. I'm trying to make sure we get through as many differentiated ones as possible too. Okay, so I think it's important, we want to make this as inclusive an event as possible too. And we have a question from an anonymous attendee. Any suggestions for play with a neurodivergent child, and in particular, one that's deaf or blind?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, play is so important for all children, and I will shout that from the rooftops forever. Play is a universal language for all children, all humans, really, right? And so, again, I'm going to say the same thing I would tell you for your neurotypical kid. Find their strength and go all in. Find out what lights them up and bring that into their play. And if it's something like someone who doesn't have sight, then right, their strength is probably really going to lie in another sense. So bring that in big time to however you're introducing play.
Awesome. All right. Okay. You're a mom of 3. Hopefully you have an answer for this mom. Any advice for a parent with 3 under 3 and trying to find a balance between them all?
Yeah. I mean, remember, I actually was just working on a piece on this on my blog. So maybe we'll bring it over into the Lalo site. But really remembering that one-on-one time does not have to be huge. It does not have to be a special event. One-on-one time or having that alone time with each of them can be as much as bending down and making that really good eye contact and listening to just them, even if it's just for 3 or 4 minutes. Just really seeing them and hearing them, and also really giving yourself grace and giving yourself a break. It's okay. Like, just do the best you can. It's all going to come and like even out in the end. And the fact that you're even asking that question tells me that you're already doing it.
Great. This is an interesting one because I think we've spoken a lot about this and you have some really good tips for this, but finding the balance is from Caitlin between fun and bonding with independent play, as well as developmental quote unquote exercises. How do you balance that and or incorporate, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm someone who's always going to tell you that play is the most important skill. Play is going to give your child all the skills they need. They call them soft skills. And I will argue those are the most important skills that your kid can have in life. So from play is going to come, your child is going to become a self-starter because they're thinking about their own ideas and no one's micromanaging their play. Your child is building on their frustration tolerance when they're playing independently because their tower builds and someone's not there to rebuild it for them. They have to do that, right? And so they're also thinking of an idea and reiterating that idea over and over and over. These are all skills that we need so much in the world right now. So I really want to remind you, you don't have to use workbooks. You don't have to use online programs. And if you want to, that's wonderful and fine also. But your child can get everything they need from play.
Okay. Couple more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. There's a couple questions here about toy rotations, Montessori, etc. There's different pedagogies out there and different schools of thought for toy rotation or play. Do you think toy rotations are helpful? And yeah, if you can speak to like the power.
I mean, this is one of the questions I get the most. And I will tell you, toy rotations can be really helpful if that's what works for you and your family, and that's not overwhelming for you. Also, toy rotations can be really overwhelming for some people. And in that case, no, they're not helpful because all they're doing is putting more stress on your plate. For me, I like to recommend to the families that I work with, instead of a full toy rotation, which can feel so overwhelming, it's just keeping the playroom lean, keeping your shelves reflective of your kids' interests and developmental stage, right? It doesn't have to be a whole formal thing. You know, like I see all those TikToks where they like clean the whole space and then they put out all the new toys, and you don't have to do that unless you love that. If you love that and it fills your child's bucket, go for it. But you don't have to do that.
Awesome. I think this is a really interesting question, especially because some of the stuff we're working on. But Adelaida asks, do you suggest using age-appropriate toys or older age toys to help them get ahead?
I think that's actually a really great question. And there's always going to be a range. So again, I'm going to go back to sort of like that more open-ended stuff, but it's really going to be more about understanding your unique child's personality paired with their development, and then having toys that reflect that. So there are going to be things that your child at certain ages is going to be naturally doing in their development. And if their toys can reflect that, you're going to see longer stretches of play.
Awesome. All right. Are you against toys that light up and move from Regan?
I am actually not against any toys. I am really one of those people that's like, if your kid loves it and your kid is playing with it, I am not going to knock it. Am I going to say I lean towards having the child do the work, not the toy? Absolutely. But like, listen, when my kids were little, they had that door toy that opened. They loved it and they played with it, and I love that thing.
Awesome. Okay. I think a lot of the questions that are here have pretty much been answered in some way, shape, or form. I will close it off with one question because it's a burning topic of parenting. Do you think screen time negatively impacts the idea of independent play, and how would you think about, thinking about screen time? Is there a right answer, basically?
I'm going to keep saying the same thing, that it's like really unique to your child and what works for your family. But I am a super firm believer that your child can be a child who uses screens and a child who loves to play independently. And you find that balance that works best for your family. The goal for me is to have the fallback and the default be play, not screens. And for me, that's the gauge, right? That's where you find that balance. When I find, even in my own family, that the default becomes coming home and just turning on the TV, then I know I need to sort of readjust a little bit, right? I want them to come home and sit down and start playing, and having screens as an extra.
Awesome. Okay. So before we close out, I have one quick poll that we'll run over in the chat. So if everybody can put in the chat, make sure you're posting it to everyone, not to hosts and panelists. I hinted that Lizzie, we're working on something really exciting. I want to just run a poll in the chat of what do you think it is that we are working on? So put your best guess on what it is you think we are working on. I'm watching. Wow, this is like rapid fire.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Okay. Lots of great guesses. The only thing I can tell you is to stay tuned, and that it will be launching on October 4th. So keep an eye out. We have a lot of launches actually between now and October 4th. So if you're not already on our email list or our text list, encourage you to sign up. Chelsea, I'm so glad that's your due date just in time. Perfect. Congratulations. Yeah, we have a lot of exciting things coming. So make sure you're following us on Instagram as well as Lizzie on Instagram. Make sure you're signed up for our email and our text, and you'll be the first to know. And to Leslie, I'm sorry, I can't give you more now, but maybe there is a hint somewhere on the screen. But I will say that we are very, very excited about everything else coming this summer or through the end of the summer to get you guys back to routine. We have 3 more webinars in this series. Next week is From Chaos to Cuisine, Stress-Free and Satisfying Family Meals. We're going to be joined by some awesome panelists with me, 2 panelists in particular, talking about mealtime, meal prep, preschool lunches, you name it. Then we have one on sleep. So all things to master sleep. This is something my wife and I personally struggled with until we employed a sleep consultant. And now we are like locked in and feel like pros. But I will be joined by a real expert. It won't just be me talking. And then lastly, unleashing imagination. So we'll be talking about some of the same things that Lizzie and I talked about, but we'll be back on the screen together, talking about more things play. And as a reminder, we have a giveaway. I have a winner. And so the winner of today's giveaway, and when I announce your name, just raise your hand, hit the raise hand button so we know you're here. And if they're not here, we'll put it to a runner-up. But the winner is Rebecca Schneider. All right, she raised her hand. All right, Rebecca, so you won today's giveaway of the Plan Toys toys, the session with Lizzie, and the play kit from Lalo. Very excited to have you be the winner, and Ariane on our team will be in touch with you so you can claim your prize. And just a reminder, all of you that joined us today, I think in the chat, we put out a link to join the big grand prize giveaway, but you all also, by being here today and attending, earned an extra entry into that $6,500 giveaway. Every time you come over the next 3 weeks, you will earn another one. And please feel free to spread the word to friends about these webinars that are happening all month long. We have amazing panelists just like Lizzie joining us all month long, talking about topics that I know I cared a lot about as I was and still do as a parent, and all you co-do, because the questions were amazing. The engagement was amazing. And we're excited to see you next week. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, everyone.